Today's story is about a con man who was considered the king of the con world. He executed such a unique and unparalleled con that even the biggest gangster in America at that time was in awe of his cunning. Despite France's police efforts, they never managed to catch him. So who was this con man? What was his greatest con? And how did he pull it off? You will be amazed when you hear this story. The con man's name was Victor Lustig. He was such a masterful con artist that many believed this wasn't even his real name, but he was famous by it and no one knew his true identity. One of the main reasons for this was that every time he went to another country to con someone, he would change his appearance and name. He had multiple fake passports, each with a different name. It is believed that his lifespan was 49 years, between 1890 and 1947, and within those 49 years, his greatest con was selling the Eiffel Tower, not just once, but twice. The story begins in Paris, France, where he started with small scams and cons. He was so skilled and cunning that before pulling off this major con, he had already executed around 40 scams. Victor had a great passion for playing cards, which led him to master card tricks. Using these skills, he performed astonishing and breathtaking thefts. Due to his smaller cons and thefts, he had been to jail several times but always managed to get out. Besides theft and cons, Victor was also proficient in Italian, French, and English, which greatly helped him in his cons. Although he was born in the Czech Republic, he moved to Paris at the age of 20, where he started pickpocketing and other small thefts. Realizing his card trick skills allowed him to steal from people without them noticing, he decided to go further with his cons. He honed his pickpocketing skills further so that he could pull off larger thefts and bigger frauds. This marked the beginning of Victor's journey to becoming the king of con artists. During those days, luxury ships traveled between France and America, carrying very wealthy passengers connected to high society. These passengers became Victor's prime targets. Victor booked a ticket on one of these ships and boarded, dressed in expensive shoes and a costly suit. He introduced himself as a member of a very wealthy family, while also portraying himself as a humble person going to America for charity work. He knew well that people quickly and easily trusted rich and philanthropic individuals. During conversations, he also mentioned that he was the biggest producer on Broadway in America, known for theater and arts in New York, and convinced them that he was about to start a new musical show for which he needed investors. Impressed by his attire and demeanor, people believed his story, and many invested money in his show. This way, he conned passengers on ships traveling between France and America, each time changing his disguise. Once he received the money, he would disappear from the ship at the earliest opportunity. However, in 1914, the First World War greatly reduced the travel of these luxury ships, and people were hesitant to travel due to the increased dangers. Victor then decided to find another way to con people and chose not to return to France but to stay in America and plan a new con. This time he wasn't alone. He teamed up with another man named Dan Collins. Together they devised a con that played a significant role in Victor's career, the Romanian money box scam. The Romanian money box was a wooden box designed to look like a machine. They claimed that this box could replicate any banknote. They asserted that if a $100 note and their special chemicals were inserted into the box, it would produce a perfect copy of the $100 note, indistinguishable from the real one, even in a bank. When selling the box, people often asked Victor why he would sell it if it could print money. Victor responded that the box took 6 hours to make a single copy of a note and could only be used for the next printing after 12 hours, totaling 18 hours to create one note. This was why they were selling the box instead of using it themselves. People convinced by their story readily agreed to buy the box. Victor and his partner, Dan Collins, would then demonstrate how the box worked. They took $100 from the buyers, inserted it into the box along with printing paper and ink, making the process look very real. After 6 hours, they would open the box and show the buyers a freshly printed $100 note, which they had pre-inserted, along with the buyer's original $100 note. This convinced the buyers that the box genuinely printed money. To further assure them, Victor and Dan would accompany the buyers to a bank and deposit the printed note, which was actually a real note they had placed in the box beforehand without raising any suspicion. This increased the buyer's confidence in the box. Victor and Dan sold these boxes for thousands of dollars each, and some even sold for up to $100,000. This scam turned out to be one of their most lucrative cons. However, Victor's greed knew no bounds. He believed he was destined for even bigger things, and creating these money printing boxes took considerable time and effort. Additionally, they had to leave the area each time they sold a few boxes to avoid getting caught. Therefore, Victor decided to shift his focus to conning banks. Despite his cunning and careful planning, Victor did get caught in one of his bank cons. However, he was so clever and slippery that he managed to escape even after being caught. On the morning of February 13th, 1922, in Missouri, Victor arrived at an American savings bank and introduced himself as Robert Jewell. He told the bank manager that he had government bonds from the First World War worth $32,000, but it was taking a long time to cash them with the government, and he urgently needed money. He proposed giving the bank $32,000 in bonds in exchange for $10,000 in cash. The bank manager readily agreed and started the paperwork for the transaction. Victor, a master of card tricks and sleight of hand, used his skills to swap the real bonds with ordinary paper during the transaction. He did this so smoothly that the bank manager never suspected a thing and believed the envelope contained the real bonds. Thus, Victor walked away with $10,000 in cash, having scammed the bank out of $32,000 in bonds, a total theft equivalent to about $300,000 today. When the bank discovered the fraud, they immediately took action and hired a special detective to track Victor down. 12 days after the con, Victor was caught in Kansas City. What happened next is truly astonishing. Victor told the bank manager that if news of his arrest and the fraud got out, it would severely damage the bank's reputation and erode their clients' trust. Given the bank's excellent reputation, the manager did not want any scandal associated with it. Therefore, they decided not to hand Victor over to the police and even gave him $1,000 of the stolen money to ensure his silence. Thus, Victor managed to escape even after being caught, thanks to his quick thinking and cunning. As I mentioned earlier, Victor had been in and out of jail several times due to his various cons and thefts, but he always managed to get out somehow. His notoriety as a conman was growing, making it increasingly difficult for him to continue his cons. Realizing this, he decided to return to his hometown of Paris. Victor began his criminal career with small thefts, and after moving to Paris, he executed a con that no other con artist had ever imagined. This con left everyone who heard about it in awe. One morning, while Victor was drinking coffee and reading the newspaper, he came across an article about the Eiffel Tower. The article mentioned that the Eiffel Tower needed maintenance, and that it had become very difficult for the government to fund its repairs due to the high costs. As a result, the government was considering dismantling the Eiffel Tower. This sparked an idea in Victor's mind to sell the Eiffel Tower, which was an incredibly audacious con. Victor decided that this time he would target a group of metal dealers. His plan was to tell these dealers that the government wanted to get rid of the Eiffel Tower and was looking for metal dealers to buy the iron, metal, and steel from the tower. Since this was a government matter, it had to be kept confidential. Victor arranged a meeting with the metal dealers, presenting himself as a government official in charge of selling the Eiffel Tower's metal. He invited them to the luxurious Hotel de Crillon, one of the most prestigious hotels in Paris, to make his con appear more credible. During the meeting, he explained that due to high maintenance costs, the government had decided to sell the Eiffel Tower for scrap. He emphasized the secrecy of the deal to avoid public outcry. The metal dealers, believing they were getting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, were eager to participate. Victor conducted a fake auction, and the winning dealer was asked to provide a substantial down payment to secure the deal. Victor managed to convince one dealer to pay a large sum of money up front. Once he had the money, he disappeared without a trace. This con was so successful and bold that Victor decided to try it again. He repeated the scam with another group of metal dealers, selling the Eiffel Tower a second time. Both times, he changed his appearance and identity to avoid detection. Despite the audacity of the con, the victims were too embarrassed to report the fraud, fearing public humiliation. This incredible scam solidified Victor Lustig's reputation as the king of con artists, making him one of the most infamous criminals in history. Victor needed to convince people that he was a government official representing the state. To achieve this, he enlisted the help of a forger who created a fake government ID for him. Armed with this ID, Victor could present himself as a legitimate official wherever he went to discuss the Eiffel Tower. After speaking with several people, he arranged a secret meeting at an expensive hotel in Paris with the top 5 metal dealers in the city. He presented himself as a high-ranking government official and explained that the government had selected these 5 dealers to bid for the opportunity to purchase the Eiffel Tower's iron, metal, and steel. He emphasized the need for secrecy, as the government had not yet made any public announcements about dismantling the Eiffel Tower. During the meeting, Victor's attention was drawn to Andre Poisson, one of the 5 metal dealers. Andre had the smallest business among them and a timid personality. Victor saw an easy target in Andre, who was desperate to grow his business and enhance his reputation. Sensing Andre's vulnerability, Victor arranged a separate meeting with him. In this private meeting, Victor told Andre that his chances of winning the contract were slim due to his company's small size. However, Victor offered to secure the contract for Andre in exchange for a bribe. Desperate for the business opportunity, Andre readily agreed to the bribe. Victor and Andre settled on an amount of 120,000 French francs. Victor collected the bribe and disappeared with the money, leaving Andre to realize that he had been conned. This amount was significant at the time and added to Victor's growing fortune from his numerous scams. This particular con, involving the sale of the Eiffel Tower, became one of Victor Lustig's most famous exploits, demonstrating his audacity and cunning as a master con artist. The deal for the bribe was settled between them. As soon as Victor received the bribe amount, he fled to Austria, where he began staying in a hotel, awaiting the quieting down of the chaos after the scam. However, the surprising thing was that neither was there any news in the French newspapers about this scam, nor did the police have any information about it. Now, Victor began to wonder why Andrew hadn't written any report about this scam. Then he thought that perhaps Andrew hadn't written any report out of fear of tarnishing his reputation because his company was still very small and this news could ruin his business. When Victor felt that there was no more danger and no one knew about this scam, he decided to execute this scam again, and in the same year, he returned to Paris. He chose 5 different people and used the same old method. But this time, the dealer he chose made Victor suspicious, and he reported the deal to the police. However, Victor always remained very cautious during every scam, so he knew that the police had found out about his scam, and they were after him. That's when he fled to America via ship, leaving France behind. After reaching America, he executed another scam, which became quite famous at that time, and this scam he did with someone whose name was Al Capone. Al Capone was America's biggest gangster at the time, making even the police shiver. However, Victor knew very well that if he did a direct scam with Al Capone, he would be shot immediately. That's why this time, the method he used expressed how skilled Victor was in his art. Victor had a special ability to understand people's behavior psychology, and he made this clear to Al Capone by saying, "The amount needed for the scam is determined, and in this scam, this amount will double, after which they will divide their shares." Victor doesn't scam with this money. Instead, he takes it and deposits it into a bank account. After some time, he goes back and withdraws that money from the bank again. Now, Victor sets aside some of this money and takes it to Al Capone, saying that the scam he went to do failed, and most of that amount went down, which Al Capone had given him. However, he still managed to save some money and returns it to Al Capone because Al Capone was a gangster who had only seen betrayal and bloodshed throughout his life. Victor's actions seemed very strange and unique to him because he had always been betrayed by everyone until today, but Victor was the first person who brought back the saved money. This greatly impresses Al Capone, and he becomes convinced that Victor is an honest and true man, which is what Victor wanted. Delighted with Victor's behavior, he gives him $55,000 in this way. Victor deceived Al Capone twice, once taking $50,000 and the second time $55,000, showing his honesty. In this way, Victor continued to execute his small scams for many years, and then he was last seen in Barcelona in 1930. After that, no one knows where Victor went or whether he is alive or dead. This was the story of that student of deception who brought many big and small scams to fruition, even sending them to the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and was never caught. How did you like the story? Let me know in the comments section. Like and subscribe to Inside. See you in the next video.